All right, big swollen heads with all that real estate knowledge. Make a little bit of room because we're going to stuff some more into that brain of yours. We are now on episode 2 of segment number 9 regarding the inspection contingency, and this episode is specifically about the inspections themselves. How to carry oneself, what sort of inspections to expect, how to react when certain things transpire during your inspections, all to keep the atmosphere calm, copacetic, cooperative. You like the alliteration there. We want the service professionals, the buyer, the buyer's agent, to understand that we're working with them, not for them. We're still trying to negotiate on our behalf. We're trying to make sure we're doing the best to get ourselves the best possible outcome as sellers, but that we're cooperative in making sure that everybody's bases are covered. We don't want a wool pulled over anybody's eyes by virtue of it just being a seller's market, right? We want to be good people. So we're going to look at this from the perspective of you've accepted an offer with a traditional inspection contingency, or at least one that has the buyer able to negotiate their findings, potentially, and one where they do have the ultimate trump card of being able to exit the contract. This is typically the majority of sales. Yes, the seller's market has produced quite a number of different permutations of the inspection contingency, up to and including actually removing the contingency altogether. But we want you to be informed on how to be as careful as possible when the full contingency is kind of hanging in the background over your head. So you say and do the right things. So let's quickly recap. An inspection is a comprehensive report card of your home. The buyer in a traditional inspection contingency window is allowed to do as many and any number of different inspections that they can fit in a 10-day window, then having to negotiate those inspection results if they care to thereafter. We'll go over the more common ones, again, looking at this from a perspective of a single-family home in a suburban market. There are many, many more different sorts of inspections if we're talking about vacant land, development property, commercial, et cetera, but we don't have all the time in the world to do these videos. Maybe that'll be another video series based on commercial work. Would love to do that. More my speed sometimes. Anyway, the common ones are the Swiss Army knife, utility knife of property inspections, the general property inspection, general home inspection. You want to make sure that your buyer is using a licensed professional. Here in Rhode Island and many other places in the Union, up until recently, it wasn't even required for a home inspector to carry a license, which is ridiculous. And there were quite a few undereducated professionals running around out there handing out inspection reports that probably weren't worth the paper they were printed on. So whether or not your state or a local municipality requires a license, I encourage you to make sure that whomever this person is using as an inspector is licensed, or at least has a really, really long history of doing their job professionally. Now, you don't need no stinking realtor, but barring a future video series about you don't need no stinking contracting professionals and service professionals on the periphery to tell you how much certain costs would be to fix certain items, you're gonna need some people behind you. If you don't have general construction knowledge, pest control knowledge, plumbing knowledge, contracting and carpentry, and you get the idea, you're going to have to look to other service professionals to get the information you need to make educated decisions. So let's backstep a little bit. We have the physical inspection, the property inspection. We have mold, we have pests, we have radon, we have well and septic. We've touched on these a number of times in other videos. You should have a pretty comprehensive idea of what takes place during each one of these inspections. But suffice it to say, during each of these inspections, when you are by necessity kind of following around the buyer's agent and their inspection professional like a puppy dog, you got to keep a level head. There's going to be a lot of things that are pointed out by these professionals that aren't necessarily an attack on your maintenance routine or your diligence as a homeowner. They're just there to do the job that they were hired for, and the most expensive ones are usually the most thorough, and they're going to pull apart your house like a latke. There's going to be things uncovered that you never knew were there, most likely, and it's not necessarily for you to explain away the problem or to make light of it or to offer some sort of insight of how you attacked this problem in the past or what the buyer might be able to do with this. Just shh. Just keep the lips together. You don't have to say much. And frankly, this is another big reason why folks desire real estate representation. An arm's length transaction, somebody between themselves and their buyer that can interpret information for them, listen to key factors that are brought up during an inspection process, and then relate them in a calm manner, one that really zeroes in on the actual issues at hand and doesn't let emotion come into play. Not only that, but if, again, by necessity, you're following these folks around during the inspection because you don't have anybody else to do it and you have to provide access to the home, you don't want to be off in some other room with people running around your private property. You want somebody overlooking them. It's probably got to be you if you don't want to hire a professional. Having yourself available for questions by whomever adds a layer of exposure. If a property inspector notices maybe a wood-destroying insect problem, and they ask you about any previous infestations, if they ask you about any remediation that you had done, any traps or pest control that you'd hired, if I am in place of you and I don't have that information and it's not on the property disclosures, it's very easy for me to say, I'm sorry, I can't really speak to that. The seller didn't disclose that on the property disclosures and I have no knowledge of it. That's the end. That inspector is there to inspect what's in front of them, not to go digging around in the past about what we may or may not have done. That's what property disclosures are before. And if we haven't disclosed anything, we're not required to. But you as a seller, if they're asking you directly, you've lived there for however many years, you may or may not have knowledge that isn't materially going to affect the value of the home, but you would be lying maybe if you didn't answer those questions. You get the idea. It's gray area. There's nuance. Having a realtor sometimes is a good thing. Actually, it's always a good thing. You should probably hire a realtor, but that's not why you're watching these videos, is it? So anyway, clam up. Keep a cool head. Take careful notes about the sticking points, whatever seems to be, very problematic in the minds of the buyers and the buyer's agents. And understand that that's probably coming back to you as a request for repair or something of this nature down the road. Now, speaking to the previous episode in this segment, one thing I forgot to mention is this is another place where careful note-taking of your buyer's showing might lend itself to you choosing the right buyer when considering the inspection process. If during the showing process, this buyer is there with 7 different members of their family who are playing inspector and pulling apart the house during the first time they've ever seen it, and this needs maintenance and that needs being replaced, and you kind of get the idea. These people are going to be a problem during the inspection process. If you've got an offer from those folks that's really great, it's an awesome offer, but it has an full inspection contingency in it, kind of got the feeling that maybe these people might try to beat you over the head with negotiations during the inspection negotiation process and end up with a lower number where you've got another offer right side by side with them. It's a close number, but it's a little bit less, maybe even 10, 15 grand less, but with an inspection waiver, you know who to choose because you don't need no stinking realtor. Anyway, continuing on, this is how you need to conduct yourself during all of the inspections. Provide full access to the home. Make sure that you are offering information that's available when it's realistic and clamming up and kind of deflecting if there's questions that really aren't relevant, and taking as many notes as you possibly can to give yourself the best foot forward when it comes time for now. The inspection process has ended. 10 days have passed, which, by the way, yes, the buyer has unlimited number of inspections to conduct inside of that 10-day period, but just because they've scheduled something inside those 10 days, if the 10 days have elapsed and one inspection didn't get done for whatever reason, sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you're outside of your inspection contingency authority. Let's negotiate on the findings you have got already rather than me continuing to allow you access for additional inspections for no reason. There you have it. Like, subscribe, share, and comment down below with your experiences. We're going to be looking at the negotiations for repairs or repair credits right after the inspections have taken place in the next episode. We'll see you there. Peace.